#new. I'd love to meet you. My name is Kim Garst. I'm an online business strategist and love helping people shorten the learning curve and grow their businesses, ultimately making more money in their business using digital and social media. That's kind of my heart, and my passion is around, helping others to grow their businesses, specifically making more money in their business. And today we have a special guest that if you are struggling with your Facebook marketing, you're trying to build your business on Facebook, then you need to listen in because we have a special guest that's going to share a very unique strategy on how you can kind of leverage the power of Pinterest to, I maybe smash it with Facebook a little bit to juice up and give your Facebook marketing a little bit of energy. So like I say, this is going to be a great show. I hope you stick around and listen in, and more importantly, really implement the strategies that you're going to learn today. As with all of our shows, I do some giveaways. We're going to do several giveaways. So let me explain not only the giveaways and what you could win, but also how you get them. So if you hear something that is just amazing, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that, or, even if you know it, sometimes you forget things that you know, and you're like, oh yeah, I need to remember that. Just drop in a hashtag aha into the area down under, and let us know what your aha moment is, and you could be in the running for some of the prizes we have today. So a couple of the prizes. One is the little cover for your webcam. I'll just bring this up a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit clearer. You just slip this over your webcam and it keeps people from, like, I guess, peering in, when you don't want them to. I guess it's a pretty big problem these days where people are just like hijacking people's cameras. So this prevents that from happening. So we're gonna be giving away one of those. We have a ring light that we're gonna be giving away as well. This is something you can just slip over your phone, and now you have a great light source anytime you want to take that perfect selfie, or you're in a dark spot and you need a great light source. It's a really great little resource to have in your backpack or your purse or wherever. And we're also giving away, our special guest has a really cool brand new planner that she needed for herself. And so she developed it, and we're going to be giving away one of those today. So with enough dry shampoo, I can accomplish anything. So obviously it's probably going to be more about, obviously the winner probably should be a woman, but who knows? It's a she did it all planner. So more than likely, if you want this and you are a woman, it's probably going to be a woman who wins this. I'm just saying, because it is kind of, designed for a woman. But if you are a man and you are like, I need that, then let's hear from you. Okay. We don't want to leave the dudes out. All right. And then last but certainly not least, our special sponsor for today's show is easel.com. And every week we give away three-month trials to 3 special winners. So again, if you are interested in a 3-month trial of easel.com, definitely put in your aha moments. Easel.com is a great graphic design tool. What I really like about Easel is the fact that their templates are pre-designed by professional graphic designers. So they're really top-notch, high quality. You can log in and, brand something very quickly without having to do any design work whatsoever. And that's one of the reasons I'm really a fan of Easel. So if you would like to give it a go and have 3 months to try it out, or if you don't win, you definitely should check it out at kimgarst.com/easel. I think you're going to love that resource. For those of you who have been following me for any length of time, I love great tools, and I highly recommend Easel. So, okay, so, all right. I'm excited to bring our special guest on. Let me share who she is and a little bit about her so that you can kind of get a feel before we welcome her to the show. So her name is Holly Homer, and I'm going to pull up her bio here. She is a professional blogger, and in fact, we'll talk a little bit about her story and how she started. But she has a business called Kids Activities Blog and the Quirky Momma Facebook page. So you can check her out at Quirky Facebook page. That Facebook page, interestingly enough, the Quirky Momma Facebook page has like 3.5 million fans. So she's got a little bit going on. I'm just saying. She has used her blog and social media as a laboratory over the years to test all things traffic and algorithm. So she's a girl after my own heart. I've often said I use social media for the business end of it, you know, and so she definitely tests and uses her blog to do so. She's a best-selling author. Her 3 books have sold over 215,000 copies. She has logged over 1,000 hours on live video, doing everything from teaching, blogging, selling clothes, crafting with crap, which I think that's an interesting thing. We're going to have to ask about that, and opening oysters on the internet. Interesting, right? Definitely one of the most interesting guests we've had. So you guys put your hands together and welcome Holly. Hey, Holly.
Hello. I always have to throw the oysters in because sometimes you just have to do something fun.
No, I don't know about everybody else, but I was like crafting with crap. Like that caught my attention way more than even the oysters did. So maybe I wonder though, if it's because I'm like crafting with crap. Like, what does that mean? Like the other is like opening oysters. You already know what that is, right? It's not much of it. It's not as much of a curiosity factor as crafting with crap. So I'm just curious, you guys that are like watching, go ahead.
Yeah, so we are in our 7th season of Crafting with Crap, although we haven't done one this year. So, but it's a challenge show where my broadcasting partner, Jamie Harrington, and I go head to head for 20 minutes, giving 4 identical crappy items to turn into something amazing. And then at the end of the 20 minutes, people who are watching vote in emoji form only for who they think the winner is. And then we repeat the whole thing. So it's actually has like no redeeming value whatsoever other than just being fun.
Oh, super fun. Oh my gosh. I have got to go check this out. So I'm just going to throw something out. Like I'm just going to pull something off my desk. Let's see what would be, okay. Let's just my bubbly can. So like, how could you turn this bubbly can into something?
Well, as an expert crafter with crap, I would take your bubbly can and hopefully there'd be some other items like maybe some googly eyes or maybe like a sponge and create probably the most popular item made on Craft with Crap was actually one of 2 items, either a hat, which would be hard to do with the can, or a monster. Monsters always are what you go to when everything doesn't fit together.
That's awesome. Well, sorry, I kind of threw that out there. I was just like, what can you? That was kind of fun.
Professional. I can handle
it. Yes, definitely. So guys, since this whole emoji thing is super fun, so let's see, what's a great question? So let's see. Drop in your favorite emoji down under. Okay, guys. So we'll use the emoji concept throughout today because I think that's super fun. Okay, so I want to get a little bit of background before we dig in. Guys, you guys are going to be just so super fired up around this strategy that we're going to talk about that Holly is using very effectively. But I want to lay a little bit of groundwork with how she started because I laugh and tell people that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I literally just wanted to make a little extra money when I started my business, and maybe Holly was the same. But I know, Holly, you have 3 boys and you homeschool. So how did you like start? How did you get your business? How did you know you had a business? Maybe that's the best way of asking that question.
So I had blogged for multiple years before it even occurred to me that there's any sort of business there. So I was not only did I start a blog on accident, it took me years and years to really figure out that I had anything there. But so I literally, like, I started a blog because one of my friends, we were emailing these big long emails once a week back and forth for like a year. And one morning, like, I open up the email and the subject line is, I think we should stop emailing. And I'm like, no, like, this is how I make it through the day. And inside her email was, I think we both should start blogs. And she explained in there how she was emailing someone else. So this was just a whole lot of copying and pasting for her to like have me involved. And she was way nicer about it than that. But anyway, so she was like, hey, if we put it on the internet, and she goes, there's these things called blogs that you can just go and write it, and then we can each start a blog and then go to each other's blogs and read them. And so she told me to go to Blogspot. So I went to Blogspot, and you have to like fill out that form. Mind you, I've never read a blog, or I didn't even know anyone else blogged on the entire internet. And so I filled out the form, and when it came to the name, I was like, well, June Cleaver Nirvana that's kind of like my, I'm a stay-at-home mom, but like things are a little bit less traditional than you might guess for kind of what's going on. And so that's what I chose. And so I just started writing about basically me and the boys, and figured out really quickly, like my first thought was, oh my gosh, I'm going to save so much money scrapbooking, because I was away from my family. So I was making multiple versions of these scrapbooks of these kids that I had. And so I didn't even think about making money. I was just really excited to be saving like over $100 a month, just not on scrapbooking supplies. So that's how I started. I had no idea what I got myself into.
That is incredible. So, and just to kind of give you guys some clarity, she started accidentally, and now she has a 7+ figure business, guys. So just think about that for a hot second, because, I think passion drives so much for those of us who are serious about how we show up and how we give value to people. We may not necessarily know at the time how we are going to do it. You just get on the road, and you get to a fork and you keep going. You choose a way and you just keep going. And I would say that even today could be potentially a fork for you guys if you decide that, what Holly has to say is, I want to go see that. I want to go see about doing what she's doing and potentially leveraging this strategy in my business. So, when it comes to social media, I know that you are very passionate. Your blog is your home, and that is the key to all of us. Well, not your blog, because some people may not have a blog, but your website is home base, and everything should, be, whether it's a home run, some things are home runs, or sometimes you get to first base and you have to keep going around the bases to get home, right? But everything should lead back home. And for you, Holly, what is, from a social space, which social platform drives the most traffic to your home?
Yeah, so it's home base, I think, is like the primary thing I want to press forward on this, as you were saying, because with algorithms, with changes, with policy changes that can happen overnight without our input or our ability to protest, is that we have to have something on the internet we control. So whether that be a blog or a website, that has to be our primary goal. And then the secondary goal being our list, even though there's algorithms associated with emails now that can be very challenging as well, but at least we have their email address. So then from there is I try to keep it pretty, even between Pinterest, Facebook, and SEO. But that I fail at that every single day. And but the point is that is the goal, is to have kind of stability across platforms. So if one of those legs should go away, which will happen at some point in the future, I promise you, then we have other stability. But right now and historically, Facebook blows the other two away significantly. But part of that is because we have been so Facebook focused for so many years that we're really, really good at figuring out what Facebook wants from us.
Such a great answer. And Facebook is squirrely. They don't change things on us very often, do they? Yeah, like, right. I'm just being totally facetious there. They
Yeah,
change
it's
stuff
just
on us daily.
every day. You don't come and you're like, what did they do today? What? Like, oh my gosh, where is that button?
Yeah, exactly. Or they, they literally I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook because I love that they innovate so quickly and that they're on top of so many things and then they're bringing a lot of functionality to us. But by virtue of that, there's always, we're fighting the algorithm, it seems like all the time. So obviously we're in COVID times and there is, I don't know if that's, I call it COVID times, but there's some things that have shifted, I think, in this time. What are you seeing that has worked the best for you from a content perspective? Whether it's on Facebook or any of the other social, even your blog. I mean, do you see shifts right now in what people are searching for?
Absolutely. And in fact, the the first weekend after the lockdown happened in the United States, I've never worked harder in my life because we had one of our posts just go viral to a point where I've never seen anything like it. And we ended up with over 10 million page views on that post by the end of the month. And the majority of it was from Facebook and referral traffic because a lot of the news outlets had picked it up as well. And, it made me realize, we've always heard, oh, with every change, there's opportunity, blah, blah, blah. When you're in the middle of that, that can sound super like stupid and like kind of insulting. But it is super, super true because here I'm running a blog called Kids Activities, and we have been talking about traditional play, things to do with your home at home without like extra stuff. Like you don't have to go to the store and buy stuff. Like it's more about the process. It's more about doing things together, learning activities, resources from parents. And what it made me realize is that we've been doing this for a really long time and not that many people cared until they really, really needed that information. And that weekend was like, holy crap, I'm stuck in my house with my kids. What's next? And so what we've just been doing is what you all do is, give people what they're searching for, what they need at that time. Now, Facebook has made it a little bit more challenging. I do, and I'd be interested to hear what you say about this, Kim, but I do think that there's certain keywords right now that can make or break your Facebook posts. And a lot of them have to do with like pandemic, COVID, all this kind of stuff. And so we've had to get really creative on how we phrase things, how we title things on the blog. I think that makes a big difference on whether Facebook allows it to be clickable. And so the way we built Quirky Momma was we posted and then we came back a few minutes later and looked at the analytics. If the analytics were good, we do more like that. If the analytics were bad, we do less like that. And that's basically, I know like this big magical, my big magical plan is to just like do something, look at how it responds. I love the internet because there's numbers attached to everything. See how it done, how it did. And then if it did well, figure out why, repeat it. If it did poorly, figure out if you can tweak it. If not, it goes in the trash bin. So that's what, I think today more than any day is we're looking at those analytics even more than we did in those growth spurts of the page because those algorithm changes are coming through. Like maybe a year or two ago, these algorithm changes rolled through in a big manner. Like, woo, you'd like, woo, that was big. It was like, I always felt like it was Thursday mornings. And then today it's more like, oh, this little bitty one zipped through. Oh, that one zipped through. So it's like a lot more change, but at a micro level versus a macro level. But if you're in your analytics every day, you're going to pick up on it really quickly.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's a shame that people are not really paying attention to their numbers, because numbers do tell a tremendous story. And, if you don't know what works, you can't focus on it. And if you don't know what doesn't work, you can't ditch it. So you could be putting a lot of time and effort into things without knowing really whether or not you should be or not. So I'm telling you guys, paying attention to your numbers is so, so important. I also agree with you, Holly, about the nuances now. I think that Facebook finally did a big overhaul on their algorithm. And now it's like you say, the nuances, the shifts. And I think they're also doing things that are, focused on things that are a big problem for them right now, which are, political things or COVID things or fake news, whatever you want to, however you want to call it. They're really trying to police it without policing it. If that's the way, and I think they've subtly changed their algorithm some to accommodate for that. It's a shame that we don't know exactly how they do it. Then we could accommodate for it. We could be smarter in our own marketing. So sometimes we're just guessing, but okay. Kind of got deviated there, but I want to dig into how you leverage the power of Pinterest and Facebook to really figure out how your community wants the content that you share there. So I'm thinking that I know the answer to this, but I want to set the stage for people who may not know. So what came first, the egg or the chicken? In other words, did you start on Facebook first and build a really good community there, and then Pinterest came along and you're like, oh, I can see how I could leverage Pinterest, or I might need to be on Pinterest. So how did that evolution happen in your business?
So I was on Facebook and Google Plus, which was my love, and then the various YouTube, that kind of stuff, and the blog, and then Pinterest comes along, and at that time I had about 10,000 fans on Facebook, maybe 12. And so Pinterest comes along and I'm like, oh no, 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 I can't do another social network. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, we're scheduling this, we're doing this, like, I can't be in all these places at once. And then I opened up my analytics. Oh crap. And I was getting a crazy amount of traffic from Pinterest, and I wasn't even on Pinterest. And I was like, oh, okay. So this was right around the time when Pinterest had let up on the beta a little bit, where they were letting anybody, including me, on it. So I was able to get in, and I started pinning, and I was seeing it reminded me of the old days of Stumble Upon. I don't know if you guys are want to date yourself to Stumble Upon, but Stumble Upon is you'd post something you'd stumble something, and they would send 50 people to your site, and then if those 50 people reacted positively, you'd get a rush of traffic. If those 50 people reacted negatively, it would die. But you would get 50 people, and back in the olden days of blogging, 50 people were a lot of people. So that's kind of what happened on Pinterest, is you'd pin something and people would show up instantly. And so I was like, holy moly, this is amazing. And so I just started pinning, and I was pinning my stuff, and I was pinning my friend's stuff, and I was pinning cool stuff that I found. And, I had board, I was so excited, because one of the things that you may not know about me is I bought the blog, Kids Activities blog, about 7 years ago. So it's not like I was at home throwing my passions into kids activities. I was more of a storyteller. I was writing about my kids. But one of the things that happened is my kids went to school. They go to school 2 days a week, and their teachers started reading my blog, and all of a sudden, I'm telling their stories, and that was kind of bad. I've realized that what writing was on the wall, that those aren't my stories to tell. So I needed to switch my content. But then I'm like, I live a super boring life without the kids. So I don't even know what to write about. So I was like, I need something that isn't like attached to my personal story. So I bought what was Quirky Momma at the time, and where I changed to Kids Activities blog. And so because I thought it was so clever that there was all these really cool things, and nobody was really doing that back then. It was like, there was Martha Stewart, who you could like see a wreath that you'd spend $100 on it, but no one was showing you how to do simple things, like, and just really, so I was like, that's really a good idea. So what I'm saying is I came to this not with a passion for kids activities. I saw the monetization opportunity behind the blog. And so here I'm on Pinterest and realizing, oh, I can have like Texas boots board, and I can have like a decorate. I used to do interior design. And so all of a sudden, because my whole online world had been only kids activities because of the site. And then I felt like Pinterest kind of released that, and I was able to do all sorts of stuff. So I did that. And then I was still getting lots and lots of traffic from Pinterest. And we were starting to play around with Facebook. And every time we were like opening up, posting something, opening up the analytics, and I was realizing that, and this was, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 4 or 5, before like this was super obvious to everyone, is like, only a hand.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Holly, so we'll bring her right back here in a second. Hopefully she comes right back. We'll give it a moment. But I want to kind of talk a little bit about Holly's structure. Stumble Upon was great back in the olden days, right? Some of us, it's been around for a minute or two or more. Remember some of these, like Google Plus, for example. I loved Google Plus. Like Holly, I thought it was a great platform. So Google just didn't apply the right focus, I guess, to Google Plus, and ultimately ended up shutting it down, which I hated to see that happen because it had a lot of SEO value in particular. But anyway, a whole other story here. But I want to kind of set the stage a little bit, and then I'll have Holly talk about this when she comes back. But one of the things that Holly does is she does something that a lot of experts tell you not to do. She posts to her Facebook page a lot, like potentially even 12 to 13, 14 times an hour. So don't panic. Don't say, oh my gosh, I can't do this myself. But I want to set the stage for it because I think there is, it's pretty incredible what she does, because like I say, most pros would tell you not to do that. So like even 2 years ago, I was probably posting on my Facebook page anywhere from 8 to 10 times a day, and it would be 24/7. Now I've backed off of that. I'm way less than that. But the point, and I've heard Holly say this before, where you don't have to listen to the quote unquote experts in the context of every little strategy. You need to test and figure out your magic sauce, figure out what is going to work for you and your community. So when she posts to her Facebook page in that quantity on a daily basis, why does she do that? It's because it's working for her. Now, what I hope that when we get her back, I'm going to ask her to share how she figured it out, and then how she sustains it. Because for most of us, you're probably thinking to yourself like, oh my gosh, I can't even post twice a day to my Facebook page. So how in the world would I post, 14 times a day? Maybe 14 times an hour or 14 times a day is overkill for you. But the interesting part is she really pays attention to her analytics, her numbers, and that's why it works for her. So Susie is saying, basically, I basically ignore my personal page because I was afraid to use it for business. Let's talk about that real quick as we're waiting on Holly to come back. According to Facebook's terms of service, we are not supposed to use our personal page for business. It is technically against their toss, and that's why they have a personal profile, and that's why there's a business page, right? But the problem comes into play is a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they build out a community or connection with their friends and family and other people on their personal profile, and for the and sort of gets more, they feel like they get more engagement on their personal profile. And honestly, a lot of people don't know that they're not supposed to use their personal profile for business either. So the tendency is just to, sneak it in, like I say, technically you're not supposed to do that, and you can, and I have seen it done, lose your Facebook account over that. So just letting you know that, but enter the problem. The Facebook page today can be very difficult to get people to engage, right? It can be hard to get engagement there. It can be hard to get visibility. I call it a self-licking ice cream, because if you don't have engagement, then you can't get reach, and without reach, you can't get engagement. So it's a frustrating dynamic. So again, one of the reasons I'm super excited about how Holly leverages Pinterest to drive or to decide on her content, and how much she shares on her Facebook page is just super smart. And I'm hoping she gets back here in just a second, and we can start to. We've got a lot of things happening here in the background. My team is trying to reach her to see if she's just lost her internet or what. Worst case, so Sue is saying, I started Google Plus and was disappointed it disappeared. Yeah, I really did like Google Plus. Worst case, guys, if we can't get Holly back, I will explain her strategy to you. And I'll give her a few minutes, and hopefully she can come back in, because it is her story. And honestly, I don't know the nuances of it enough to, I know brushstroke, and that's the key here. Is I really wanted you guys to hear this from her. And if we can't get her back, we can always reschedule. But seriously, this is such a great story and such a wicked smart strategy that I really want you guys to hear it from her. So we'll give her a few more moments. While we're waiting, though, I will again just talk around it a little bit without totally digging into everything. So Debbie's saying, so many people want to friend me on personal page. Yes. And going back to that whole synergy with the personal profile and then your business page over here. And then there's, for those of us who have Facebook groups, there's that dynamic as well. Okay. So we just got word from Holly that her internet has gone out, and they're trying to figure it out and fix it. So hopefully we can get her back on here. So, like I said, the struggle has been that Facebook has just really curtailed the reach that you're getting on your business page, which means that the content that you share there has to be really what your fan base wants. Otherwise, they're probably not going to engage with it, even if they see it. So that is going to be the key here. And that's one of the things that Holly is doing so well on her business page. So let me pull up her business page for you guys. Actually, I'm not on StreamYard. Hey, Jeff, can you pull up Holly's Facebook page and let's just take a look at it real quick? My production team will have to pull it up on their side. Usually I'm on StreamYard and I'm able to just do things on the fly, but we're going to have to get some back end help here today. And thank you guys for hanging in there. Okay, it looks like she's getting reconnected. So we'll give it just a second. But I was going to pull up her page, her Quirky Momma page, where she has 3.5 million Facebook fans. and kind of show you what, take a look at her hosting strategies and the types of content that she's sharing there. So here it is. So obviously she just posted something, and again, 1, 2. Let's just scroll down a little bit and just take a look at how many things she's posted just in the last few minutes. Okay, so we're up to 3 posts, 4 posts, 5, 6. Okay, 7-ish. All right. So as you can see right there, within the last 24 minutes, she's posted 7 times. Now, obviously, she's been live with us. So she hasn't been, she's not like, okay, I'm over here posting, and I'm also on the live show. No, she's pre-scheduled all this content. But how did she come up with all this content to start with, which is where her Pinterest strategy comes into play? So as soon as we get Holly back up here, we're going to talk and really dig into that quick, because so Maria is asking, you can lose your Facebook page for posting business on it. Is Instagram the same? So Maria, you can't lose your Facebook page. It's your Facebook profile, your personal profile, not your business page. Your business page is just that. It's for business. So anything that's business related should go there. And you should try to keep from posting things directly to your personal profile that's business focused. Now, one way that I have kind of gotten around that a little bit is sometimes I'll share things from my personal profile to I'll share things from my business to my personal to kind of keep from muddying, going direct to my personal profile with a business thing. So Holly's back. Yay. Okay. So Holly, I have no, don't worry. We have been talking about all this stuff, and I've kind of set the stage. So we're going to just jump in without any further ado. So I just pulled up your Facebook page, and I showed them how often you're posting to your Facebook page. And a lot of people I know would probably be like, oh my gosh, what is she doing? I can't do that. Right. First, though, let's talk about why you do that, and then how. Let's just dig into that. Why do you do that, and then we'll talk about how do you come up with your content ideas.
So we do post an obscene amount of numbers today, every day, and and I don't recommend that for anyone who doesn't come to it with the numbers like we have. But it came back from that Pinterest. Is I noticed that we could post as often as we wanted to on Pinterest, as long as it was amazing. Like, no one complained about it if it was amazing. And then you think about it on Facebook, it's the same situation. People just want really cool stuff in their feed. And so as long as it's amazing and it's the best stuff out there, there shouldn't be any problem with posting a cajillion times a day. And we're getting close to that on Quirky Momma. But I have help. And that's the other thing is this is not a strategy. Like, Facebook also likes consistency. So I always recommend, like, if you think, oh, I could post, 3 times a day, I would say, why don't you start at one or 2 times a day until you get really good at that, and then bump it up, because you can't post, 20 times one day and 10 times the next day. The math on that makes Facebook really, really nervous. And it has to do with the amount of content, basically how they've dealt with you in the past is how they're going to deal with you in the future without thinking about it. So, that's why this is all a slow momentum game. And so we post a lot, but it's because we've been posting a lot for a long time, and we look at the numbers every day and assess whether, if we need to go up or down a little bit. But I would never change more than by about 10% any given day. But I have a team. And so we have a spreadsheet, and this is something we've been running from day one, is that we have a spreadsheet that has the different topics. And so 1 a.m. might be like a parenting post, 1:30 might be a food post. And we've kind of we've come to those different times and topics based on what we've seen popular at certain times. And then we just kind of rinse and repeat. So it allows us to get all the content we want from the blog on there. But this is probably the dirty little secret that people don't really think about when they're creating content, is that blogs in general, websites in general, any content, a very small percentage of the content is responsible for a high percentage of the traffic. So like you always hear the 80-20 rule. In blogs and for traffic and all that kind of stuff and popularity on social media, I think it's closer to probably 99.1%. Like 1% of the content and of the ideas are going to create 99% of the action, which makes sense because Facebook and Pinterest and all these other places are just looking for trending, super popular stuff. They want to kind of get rid of the average and below average.
Yeah. And that's basically what I was sharing earlier when I was talking about, I actually have that question on that we're going to talk about. So I'm so glad you asked that question, Jeff. So, when I was talking about the algorithm and, posting multiple times to Facebook and all that kind of stuff, it really comes back down to you've got to have stellar content. If your Facebook page is struggling, then that means that your content may not match up to what your fan base wants. It could be that you don't have the right fans. I mean, there is that too. That's definitely one of my issues. Is I've got a combination of people who come to my page for the inspiration. And then there's others who come for the social media and the business side of it. So that's a kind of a bit of a hybrid for me, right? Mm-hmm. So going back though to the stellar content and knowing your community, how do you sustain that long term? How do you come up with the content ideas that from Pinterest specifically, that you can, repurpose because you're sharing all this content on Pinterest, pinning all this stuff. So do you take the best of that and then pull those and put them into your Facebook strategy?
Yeah. And the first thing I kind of want to address I think there's a misconception a little bit on good content versus bad content on social media. That's not really how the algorithms look at it, in my opinion. The algorithms are looking at it as, I have to eliminate spam. And that's basically why we have algorithms, is to match content with readers. But the big reason why they need to do that is because spam exists in the world. And it's one of those situations is the people before us screwed it up. And so we have to pay the price and figure out what to do. So in some cases you could have literally, and this happens all the time, you're like, holy moly, this is the best thing I've ever written, or this is the funniest meme I've ever seen, or this is something amazing. And you put it out there to crickets. And it's because it's not unfortunately, even though they're getting into the the editing game a little bit on Facebook, they're not editing it for worth. It's completely based on how those initial people that they thought might interact with it, if they interacted. It's basically kind of like that old stumble upon algorithm that, hey, they sent 50 people to it. If those 50 people weren't as impressed with it or wasn't such a good match, then that post is just going to die. And so it's about engagement. And so the way I think about it is any post that doesn't have good engagement is labeled in the algorithm as spam. And so you've got to figure out, to survive in this the long term, is how to not be spammy. And like here again, that could be the best content in the world. It just didn't hit the audience that you have or that Facebook thought you had. The match was just bad. So what we do is look at across the board. And so we're looking at our Pinterest analytics. We're looking at Google Analytics. We're looking at search. So like in Google Search Console, we're looking at, in Google Search Console is Google Discover, which is also a trending content place. So between there's trending on Pinterest, there's trending in Google Discover, there's trending in SEO, there's trending on Facebook, and so all that information, because it can bring you to a point where, okay, hey, I noticed that this just hit it big on Pinterest. Let's try it on Facebook. I mean, because we have the biggest laboratory in the world. Like, we can just throw something out there. And if it does well, then we can go like, okay, we're going to go write an article that can back that up now. So Jeff asked about, is it like our content versus third-party content? When we first started this philosophy back on our Facebook page, where I didn't have enough good content, I mean, I have a lot of content on the blog, but it wasn't enough stellar content to have enough stuff to do each day. So we basically did 1/3 us and 2/3 amazing stuff from the internet. Now, I use that traffic and that money to make better content and more content on Kids Activities blog. So at this point, we're pretty much about, I would say 70%, maybe 80% our content versus other people's content. I'm less reliant on that. I used to link out to some of the trending content that might be on Little Things or some of these other sites that were like BuzzFeed that were really popular. Now I have a team that writes that for us themselves. We brought it in-house just because it was making money.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you explained the fact that it's all about the engagement literally within the first little bit that drives more traffic your way or no traffic. You can die a slow death on the vine because, people are not working it out. So, or not engaging with it. And Sue's saying, how long did it take you to figure out what worked on your post? So I would love to ask dig into that question just a little bit more, because you've talked about this at a surface level. Like you're saying, okay, we pin something on Pinterest and we pay attention for how long? Like how quickly? Like, do you pin something and then are you sitting there and you're like, okay, this looks like it's going to work. So go put this over there. I'm just curious what's that look like for you guys?
Yeah, and by the way, these algorithms, as you all can attest if you've been on it for very long, we used to think Pinterest was the long game algorithm and nothing hit Pinterest for months and months. That's not the case anymore. And we used to think, oh, well, Facebook used to be instant, like you put it out there and you could literally watch the numbers. It was so fun. And so you could get a feel if you kept doing that. You could get a feel in the first 5 minutes if it was something that was going to do well or not. So both of those algorithms, Facebook has slowed down and Pinterest has sped up. So I feel like with Pinterest, what we generally do, let's say we have a new blog post. And so we are going to make probably 3 different pins for it. And they might not even be that different. It's amazing. And Jeff can testify to this, how just a color or just a font can make or break a pin. So we may just make 3 different variations, and then we are going to pin those out over the next 3 to 5 days. And so generally by the end of the week, we're going to know which one is the winner. And by the way, we're not going to repin anything that doesn't do well on Pinterest. We're only going to repin the stuff that's doing well. But it gives us an idea of, did that get some traction? So generally, you can get that feeling, because all we need to know from Pinterest is, did that get some traction? And sometimes I'll use it for the wording or for kind of the angle. You know how you can write a blog post, but it could you could literally market it in 432 different ways. So a lot of times I'll take the gist of okay, this is a great example in 2020, everything's upside down. So back to school, my regular back to school posts that normally every August and September do really well, we have to reword them. People still want them, but they need to be approached in a more delicate manner. So we're doing that. So Pinterest, I say, if you've pinned it, give it 24 to 48 hours. You may not have the final data on that. Hopefully it's going to do better as it gets more and more repins, but you're absolutely going to know if it's fallen dead. So that information can go to Facebook. Facebook is a little bit different. We're going to simultaneously probably pin to Pinterest and put it to Facebook for initial testing. And then it's kind of like what we do on Pinterest a little bit is, okay, on Facebook, like it did really well. Okay, guess what we're going to do? You're going to see it again, maybe later that day, maybe the next day, maybe the next day, maybe the next day. We actually, what we call wear out links. So, once something's popular on Facebook, it's going to be popular on Facebook. So this is something, if you have a dead page and you are like, I can't get these people to react to anything. What you need to do is go find something popular somewhere else. Because if it's popular on Facebook, it's popular on Facebook. It'll be popular on your page. And so this is where like these links get juice. If you can prove this to yourself today by like pulling a link from a popular source, whether it be a popular news source or a popular like BuzzFeed or Huffington Post or something like that. Just put a link on your page from something that's appropriate for your audience, and see how much more reach that link gets than maybe something that you wrote on your own blog. Don't be depressed by that. What that means is that like links have juice. So all you need to do is get your links to have juice. And so let's say we post it the first time and it doesn't do well at all. Then we're going to go back and into the laboratory and say, okay, did Facebook not like the description? Does Facebook not like the image? Does the image look too stock photo-y? Does is it something people even care about right now? And so we go through all this thought process and tweak 2 or 3 things and try again. And I said earlier, 99% of the time, this is not going anywhere, which is one of the reasons why we post so much. But 1% can make a huge difference. And by the way, every single time you go back into your laboratory and change something and retest it, you are going to be better at next time you post something. And that's the beautiful thing about all of this, is when you go in and are thinking about all these intentional changes, intentional this, intentional that, your whole social media program changes, because it changes from, oh, I got to get 3 things up today, to, whoa, look, I bet I can do this. I bet this will change it. Like, I wonder what will happen when I try that. And then if it fails, you're no longer like, oh man, that failed. You're like, oh, I know what it is. Next time I got you, Facebook.
So it's all about playing with it and being open to playing with it. And more importantly, putting in the work, because it's one of those things where you have to, okay, it's like, okay, that didn't work. So what, instead of throwing in the towel and saying, well, that didn't work, figure out why it didn't work, I think is what I'm hearing. One of the things that I hear quite frequently when it comes to introducing a new social media strategy or any kind of new strategy to those, specifically in the social media space, let's stick to the social media space, is, well, I don't have this or I don't have that, and my business doesn't look like theirs, so I can't do what they're doing. But I want to focus in on Pinterest for a second. Like, right, we didn't start like with all these fans or all these, huge lists or any of that stuff, right? We started just like everybody else. But I want to key in on Pinterest in particular, because I think Pinterest is such a golden opportunity, even if you're not currently marketing on Pinterest. And the reason that I believe that's true is because it doesn't, well, let me ask you, it doesn't matter if we have a ton of fans or followers on Pinterest, does it? Can you explain why it doesn't matter?
Yeah, and it kind of makes me mad it doesn't matter. But for those of you who haven't spent the last 1,000,000 years on Pinterest trying to develop a following, it's to your benefit. And Pinterest is crazy because there's several different ways people find pins. They find it through search, they find it through just something that's popular, and they find it through their feed. And so you actually, like, I have like just some small Pinterest accounts, for some projects that we've actually revived them recently, just testing this out. And it's very, very true. Like, it's helpful initially to have more followers, but after a short period of time, especially if it's going to do well, it's going to do well. And I think that's probably the difference. If it's going to do well, it's going to do well, whether you have a lot of followers or not. The below average things are going to do just a little bit better if you have a lot of followers, if that makes sense. But Pinterest is all you need to do is stand out. And for those of you who are like, but I'm not a designer, like, I don't know, like, what to do, like, my pins look terrible. Okay, if I opened up my top pins from before we started really working on fresh pins, like, let's say maybe 6 months ago, every single one of my top pins that was driving massive amounts of traffic were ugly. So I know you can drive traffic with ugly pins, and you've heard my philosophy. The only way you're going to get better at making pins is by making some pins. So get those ugly ones out of the way, like today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes people get hung up on what they don't have instead of just focusing in on, what they do have. So when it comes to that Pinterest content, though, and I know you put it out there. Let's go back to your blog example where you're talking about the blog. You have a new blog. You post the blog, and you do them one at a time, and meaning here's the image one, and then a couple of days later you do image two, and then once you find your winner, this is my question, once you find the winner of which is the best one, that's the one you focus on, do you pin that particular pin, the winner, to multiple boards at that point?
Oh yeah. So what you need to know about me is we're going to keep doing something persistently until it stops working. So I haven't counted my boards lately. I have way more boards than anybody needs on Pinterest. But I have at least 20 or 30 that would be applicable for most anything that I would write on kids' activities blog. And the goal there is to not have all your Pinterest boards be exactly the same. I have coloring pages, and I have, STEM activities, and I have we obviously have a kids' activities board, but the truth is you want them different enough so that when someone goes there, they get just that. But so much of the content, like if I do, something on the scientific method that's a printable, that also has some coloring page aspect to it, that could go on the STEM activity, that could also go on the coloring page activity. So that's when it's almost like how we try to categorize things on the blog is like, what are all the places that can match that? So basically, once we have our winner, and by the way, if all three of those did not do well, we're going to start making new pins until we find something that does do better. Because I am not going to pin crap, because that goes against everything I've said about both Facebook and Pinterest. Is they don't like we need to shun average. We need to shun unintentional. We need to only go with what's doing well. So we're going to keep making new pins, or we're going to give up. And I shouldn't have erased this. This was like the flow chart of when we give up. And it's way down the list, by the way. But because I feel like there's not a whole lot that we write that wouldn't do well on Pinterest if we approached it. But this is just like SEO. Is like, it is up to us as content creators and marketers to connect the dots, not only for the person reading this or interacting with it on Facebook or Pinterest, but to connect the dots for the algorithm. Because otherwise we're here like speaking our own language. And this is really obvious when it comes to like technobabble, where we get caught up in these words that the rest of the world don't use. And then we just automatically put them out on the internet. And not only does that like just alienate like the people who have no idea what we're talking about, but it may cause some disconnection between like what our purpose is and what the algorithm's going to view that purpose based on how it wasn't well received. And so we always have to think about whatever we're doing as am I saying this in a way that both the reader and the algorithm can understand it? Otherwise, we're the tree that falls in the forest with no one around. And we can just keep knocking down trees. And believe me, I've knocked down many, many trees without people in the forest. But every single time you have to think, okay, I need to make sure someone's there so that when I do this, it's going to actually have some impact.
Yeah, and it's all about intentional marketing. And then even if you try something and it doesn't work, why didn't it work, and redo it? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Keep tweaking it until you figure out what's the magic sauce, and I think that's different, honestly, for everyone. It's just like this strategy that Holly has where she's leveraging the power of Pinterest to discover, great content that her community likes, or that it's not even her community, because the petri dish for Pinterest is much larger than just her Facebook page. So basically all of Pinterest can be her test subjects, if you will, and she's using that to say, okay, I've tested this piece of content. It's hot. It's going to work over here more than likely it's going to work over here on Facebook as well. So Holly, for people who might want to try this, like leveraging the power of Pinterest to find out what's hot, what's going, whether it's their content or someone else's, where would you suggest they start? Like maybe if they don't have content, let's just approach it from the perspective of, hey, I'm brand new. I don't have any content. But I want to try this strategy just to see if it's going to work for me. Where would you suggest they start?
Yeah, so, and that's the beautiful thing about all of this is you can test this with other people's content. Like, in fact, I would recommend, we built Quirky Momma's community on the backs of other people's content because we didn't have enough good content. And so this, and the thing is that this is good karma to put out in the world as well. So I want you, especially if you're just getting started, or maybe you have a Pinterest account like many of us that has it's just not super active and you have like 3 random boards, is go in, be intentional, and think, if I was going to run my business off of Pinterest, what are the 6 topics, maybe even 9, that I want to make sure that I cover? And this is also going to be, it's fine if they overlap a little bit. Remember how I said that there are like 30 boards that I could probably pin the same pin to, but all those boards are going to end up being different because the combination of things that are pinned are different. So, I like 6 or 9 so that when people go to your Pinterest account, it looks full and looks like looks like you know what you're doing. And then I want you to go out and pin at least 50 things to each of those boards. Okay. And so you can think about, oh, well, that piece of content is something that and go out in the world thinking, what might I write? What might I be interested in? What might be interesting to a community that I foster? And so those are the things that you want to go out and pin. And that can be a very varied stuff. That's like no big deal. And on Pinterest, it has you can be as super random as you want to. So then you're going to go do that, and you're going to go and look at your Pinterest analytics. It's going to show you, and make sure before you do all this that you are a business account, because that's where all the magical analytics show up. So you can go in and see what your top pins. You can sort by the pins that sent the most traffic. Those would be my top. If I'm just starting a blog, I might think about, expanding upon those topics, because you saw that Pinterest liked those topics and sent traffic to those topics. Those top pins are things I would try out on my Facebook page. And you see how this just kind of goes and goes and goes, because now you have data. You just need data. Once you have data, then the next few steps become super, super obvious. We're not guessing anymore. We're taking, what we've seen work on one platform and trying it on another one. And then when you put it on Facebook, you have data over there. And then when you write it on your blog, you have data over there. And so all of this becomes a really amazing data-driven decisions where you're not even thinking after a while. Like I literally, so like, just to give you an idea, like my editorial calendar for September and October on the blog are already created. And I did that by opening up the analytics for the last few years for September and October and looking at what was the top on Pinterest, what was the top on Facebook, so that, and what was the top from Google, and then making sure that those are represented. And so this all becomes so simple once you just have some data to play with.
Yeah. So, y'all, I just want to say something real quick. What Holly just said is gold. I hope you listened. Seriously, most of the time when we are trying to figure out what kind of content we create, we're sitting down, pulling our hair out. Like, what do I do? What do I, it's a problem. Even to the degree that we look at social media, you sit down and you have brain cramp. Like the stuff doesn't just come to us. Like most people don't just have an innate sense of, oh my gosh, I've got to create this type of content. Like it just doesn't happen. So when I first started vlogging, it was literally haphazard. Like I had no strategy, no plan. I was like, and I'm sure Holly can relate to that. And then I evolved into like paying attention to things that resonated with me. Like if, oh, that's a great piece of content and it's getting a lot of engagement. I want to key in on that. So I would write a blog about it. Right. And now I do exactly what Holly said, although I don't, I'm going to incorporate some of her strategies because I was like, oh, we could layer that in. And so I got so many ideas as I was listening to her talk. But using tools like BuzzSumo or Feedly or, tools where it gives you a place to start with high content that's already proven so that you're not like trying to pull stuff out of your hat. Is what a lot of us do when we first start. So, go check it out, see what other people's content, what other types of content that's already proven, that's gotten engagement. That's such solid advice. I really wanted to hammer that home because if you feel like you're struggling, that was just pure gold. Honestly, I wanted to key in on that. So as we're pulling up the winners for today's contest, there's so many things I would love to pick Holly's brain on. I'm going to have her back to talk about SEO, guys. If she'll if I can twist her arm and all that stuff, I would love for her to share her
all
SEO
day and night.
I mean, we could totally geek out. I'm like, this girl is my kind of gal here. So the ring light winner is Lisa Burleson Martin. So Lisa, if you will go up to I think it's send message up in the little corner. Yeah, there you go. Send us your mailing address and we'll get that out to you ASAP. And then let's see what other winners do we have? Have the webcam cover. So Jenny Schaefer, you're going to get the webcam cover. Same thing, gal. We need your girl. Same thing, girl. I got my G's all messed up there. So Jenny, if you will send us your mailing address, we would appreciate you. And we'll get that out to you. And then the planner, Sue won the planner. Oh, Sue, I'm so excited you won. So yay, excellent. And then we've got the easel winners. Easel.com is Susie. Yay, Susie, Stu, and Robin. So Susie, Stu, and Robin, all we need from you is an email address and we'll get your easel account set up and you'll have access to that for 3 full months. So it's a great way to try a great tool out. All right. So Holly, if people want to start to geek out over how you do stuff and try to reverse engineer what you got going on or just connect with you, what's the best place that they can connect with you?
So hollyhomer.com is where I talk about kind of the behind the scenes. I have a small coaching group where we geek out daily over this stuff. It's called Blog Freedom. Yeah. And it's just really make sure you friend me on Facebook too. I don't do a lot of personal stuff on Facebook, but I'd love to connect with people because it's all about the numbers to me. It's just so fun.
Definitely. Well, definitely. You guys check out Holly at hollyhomer.com. She does have her, yes, she did it all. I wanted to point that out. So if you are a lady and you are interested in a great planner, basically what Holly was sharing with me is, most planners don't incorporate the children. And
Or like it's
hello.
either office or home, but not both. And I'm like, yeah, I got both going on here.
Yeah, so she did it all.com. Check it out. Great little planner. So if you are a gal who has kids and you're trying to balance it all with your business and all that stuff, then this might be a great little planner for you. Like Holly said, a lot of the planners out there are created by men, and they have, and nothing, no disrespect there. I mean, there's some great planners out in the world, but
Great ones.
us women have a few different challenges sometimes that not necessarily the guys key in on. So, and again, it's just everybody's got their own thing.
We
So,
think
Holly,
differently.
yes, we do. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your awesomeness with us. And I'm hoping you'll come back and we'll talk SEO. And I'm serious, we got to get together and have that glass of wine and geek out some more. All right,
That sounds
guys,
great.
take care
Thank
of
you
yourself.
so much.
Take care of yourselves. Stay safe, and God bless.